Since I don't have too many videos about front end or CSS, I figure we can try to learn about Flexbox today by playing this game called Flexbox Froggie, which is a very fun game where you can learn about various properties of CSS Flexboxes. Now, Flexbox is supported by most browsers, and you should be able to use this in your code, in your CSS code, across all major browsers. So let's try to play this game and see if we can learn something from it. So let's start by this. So this game has 24 levels, and we're trying to move the frog into its lily pad, and via Flexbox. So looking at this first one, it says you can use justifyContent, and justifyContent is a property which has to contain some following properties, and here it gives you a nice description of all of them. So if you want, if I'm going too fast, feel free to pause the video to read about these properties, but I'm just going to try to go through these. So it seems like the frog is, the lily pad is on the right side of the screen, at the end of the screen. So I think the right property for this will be justify content, and it's the end of the screen, so I'm just going to do flex end. As you can see, the frog is at the lily pad, and we can go on to the next stage. And here it looks like we have two frogs, and the lily pad is on the center of the screen. So I think the property we can use is justify, I can't type today, content center, right? So it's at the center of the screen, and now the frogs are aligned. Fair enough. And here we have three frogs, and if you look at the screen, it looks like these lily pads have certain spaces between them, but at the same time it has spaces in the front and the end of the screen. So to me this looks like justify content space around, because you have space around each lily pad, so that's why I want to use this. And for this stage, it looks like the same as before, except that in the beginning and the end we no longer have that extra spacing, and it looks like the frogs have space in between each lily pad. So the property we should use is space between. There we go. So that's correct. Cool, we're on stage 5 already. So now we have a new property called align items. Align items lets you align your items in various vertical position. So here's like you're going up and down when you use align items basically. And the property it accepts is pretty similar to justify content. Now this time when we look at this, since this is the beginning, the top is the beginning, and we want to move the frogs to the end, so therefore we can use align items flex end, and this will move the frogs down to the end. And here's a real nice stuff. I think we tend to do this very often, is that we want to move an item to the center of the container, right? Both vertically and horizontally. So we can use justify content and align items together to move things to the center of the screen. So you can do justify content center. So this will move you horizontally to the center of the screen. And then if you use align items, and then you also put center, and this will move you vertically to the center of the screen. Now you have a center aligned item within the container. So if you try to do this with CSS, it's a lot of work. But with Flexbox, you can do this very easily with 3 properties. Cool, right? Let's move on to the next one. Okay, so let's do it one by one. We want to move the items to the bottom of the screen first. So you can do align items, and then you can do flex end. And now we want to, it looks like there's space around each lily pad, right? So we want to do justify content space around. There we go. And now we have a new property called flexdirection. Flexdirection tells you like which direction you want the data to flow. So I don't know how to explain this, but I want to show you like what we can do. So you can do flex direction. So let's change that to column. So let's see what happens. As you can see, the items are now wrapped in the column format instead of the row. So that's how you can move things around. If you want to reverse the order, so let's say I want the red on the first one, you can do column reverse. So it'll actually move to the bottom of the page, opposite of the screen, and then with the flow will be starts from the end, which is red, and then yellow, and then green. So that's the column reverse effect. So for this, what do we want to do? We want to move. So basically, we want to stay. Like this is a row right now, right? Column row. This is a row flow. So exact similar to what we did earlier, we want to start with red first instead of green. So we just need to do a row reverse, and this will move the frogs to start with red and then ends with green. I hope that's clear. And now we can do it again. This time we want to try the column format, right? Because this is aligning in the up-down manner. So we can do flex direction, column, and there we go, it's done. Now, what's this saying? This is Flexbox again now. So we want to move the red to here first, and then green to the end. So we had two things. You can use the flex direction property and justify content to get there. So we need two properties there. So let's try the row reverse. Let's see what happens, right? So flex direction, row reverse. So when you do that, it actually starts with the red, right? Like we did last time. Now things are flowing from here to the end. But our lily pads are at the beginning of the screen. So therefore, we have to add an extra property with justify content. I think it's flex start, can we? No, so we can do flex end. So when you have a reverse direction, you want to make sure that your justify content is reversed as well. So in this case, when we do flex end, usually it moves to the end, right, to the right side. But since we have a reverse flow direction, it will move to the beginning instead. So I hope that's not confusing. That's the little gotcha you have to know. So let's try it again. This time we're trying to move things down. So we know the first thing to do is change the flex direction to column. And now we know that the red frog is at the bottom. So now we want to align the things, right? So remember we have this align items property. Align items, and we can do align items. So since we're not doing the reverse or anything, we're just gonna do flex end. Ooh, but now it goes to that side, right? So that's a little interesting because when let's see, notice that when the flex direction is a column, justify content changes to vertical. Okay, so we gotta use justify content instead because we're not really content flex end. So this will move the things to the end because there's no column reverse, right? So it will flow to the natural direction of your flex direction as specified here. Okay, so let's try it again. Flex direction, column, move it vertically, and now this looks like a space between. It's really hard to type when you're talking at the same time. Justify content, space between. And now what's interesting is that the red frog is at the bottom here. We want the red frog to be at the top. So to do this, we just need to reverse direction. There you go. Now the red starts at the beginning. Okay, let's do it again. Now this time, it seems like all the things are at the bottom of the screen. So we had to use three properties. First, we had to align items to the bottom of the screen. And then we had to justify content to the center of the screen. right? But now the red frog is at the end, but we want the red frog in the beginning. So we can do flex direction, row reverse, and there we go. Perfect. Now there's this new order, this property called order. It allows you to order things within a container in a specific manner. So right now it's green, yellow, and red, but we want green, red, and yellow. So for this yellow frog, we want to move this to the end. So how do we do that? So we can use the order property, and let's change it to 1 or 2. So this will move the frog to the end. So you can do 0, 1, 2, and you'll move it to the end. And here, if we want to move the red frog to the beginning of the page, of the container, we can just do order -1. This will move the red frog to the beginning. So there's a new property called align self. So let's see what it says. It says aligns a flex item along the cross axis, overriding the align item value. So right now we have align item of flex start, but what if I don't want this yellow frog to be align start? I want this specifically to be at the bottom of the page. So it will take the same property value as align items. So instead of flexing at the flex start, we want to move the yellow frog to the bottom. So we can do align self flex end. So this will move the frog to the end of the page. So now we can combine order and align self to move the frog to the destination. So let's see. So the same thing as before, we want to move it to the bottom of the screen first. Align self flex end for yellow. Now it's at the bottom, and now we need to change the order. So order, it looks like this is 1, this is 2. So for yellow, we need to set the order to 2, and this will move the frog to the right. We're almost done. Now the frogs are all squeezed, so this looks really bad, right? So we want to spread them out evenly with flex wrap. So flex wrap, which accepts the following values: no wrap, wrap, or wrap reverse. So this will like wrap the things around when there's too many of them on the page. It will evenly go to the next row when there's too many. So let's try it. Flex wrap. Let's just put wrap in it. As you can see, now the items are properly wrapped to the next line when there's too many of them. So this looks pretty interesting, right? So let's slowly fix this. So we want to change, we know that this is this is like going from here, here, here. We want to change this to a column order, right? So let's do flex direction, column. So this will move the frogs here. But now we need it to flow naturally, right? It needs to go down here. When there's too many, it will go to the next row, and then too many, it go to the next row. So we can use flex wrap. This row. Actually, what's the property? Oh, wrap. Oops, spelled it wrong. So now everything's wrapped to the next line properly. Now here, we can combine those two properties together into a single flex flow property, because flex direction and flex wrap are used very often together. So usually people combine them together to make it easy. So we're going to try to achieve the same effects as before, but with a single property. So you do flex flow row wrap. Now this time we want to do column instead, right? So column, wrap, and boom, there we go. It's very similar to before. All right, now what's going on? It looks like the frogs are spreading too much across the pond. We want all the frogs to spread like only on the top portion of the page. So what is this saying? You can use align content to set multiple lines spread apart. So align content is another new property, right? So we can do align content flex start. So this will move the things to the beginning of the page. I think we used this before. Well, that was align self, but align content determine the spacing between the lines, while align item determine how the items as a whole are aligned within the container. So remember, content equals spacing. So this looks like at the bottom, so let's do align content flex end. So now we move everything to the end of the page and we're good. So let's see, we have a pretty interesting page. So how do we fix this? Now we have a flex direction and align item. So let's see, we want to change this to flex direction column first. So now we move there, and it seems like everything's pretty centered. So we can do align content spacing wise, right? Center. And now you notice that the red is on the bottom. Sorry, red on top. We want the red on the bottom, right? So we can do, remember what we did before, right? You have a flex flow. So flex wrap is wrapped. So we want to column reverse, and now the red is on the bottom. Perfect. And now we're at our final task. So what we're trying to do here is to move these frogs to the right place, but this is very messy, right? So we have a lot of things to clean up. So we have to use everything we learned from beginning in order to fix this. So let's try the flex flow property. Remember, this accepts two properties. First is, let's try column. So if we try column and then wrap, so it seems like we're moving the yellow here, but we want the yellow on the other side, right? So let's reverse, and then you see the red is up here, but we want the red down there. So it seems like we can do reverse on both, and now it seems to be pretty close. And now we want to do align items. Let's see, align items, we want to move it to flex end. All right, we're kind of close. We're pretty close. Let's try more. So it seems like the spacing is a bit off, right? We want a lot of spacing in between them. So we can do align content. Remember, align content is for spacing. And then you can do space between. Okay, we're really close. We just need to move the yellow things to center. So since this is already fully stretched, we don't need to worry about this. So if we apply a center align to this, it will just move everything to center. So all we need left is justify content and center. There we go. We won the game. So I highly suggest you try out flexboxfroggie.com to learn about Flexbox. And if you want to try more, they have CSS garden as well, grid garden. If you want to learn about CSS grids, I personally is trying to get in even better on the front end CSS portion. So I find these websites very useful. So I suggest you subscribe to my channel if you want to see more of these, and let me know what you think about this. I'll see you guys next time.